Hello everyone, welcome back to Kant Academy. And so today, what we're going to do is look at strings in Python programming. And so, a string is so we have different types of data types that exist in data, and so one of them data types is sometimes we call it as like character data type or string data type, and it's just like any kind of characters that you have um, in that you store in a particular variable that we call it as a string, which is anything that is like not numeric, right? So let's look at our first example of a string. So I'm going to start off by, so I'm using a Jupyter notebook here, and let me just create a simple example, which is like the standard example that we usually see, right, in programming. The first thing is like the hello world. So you can see, so string usually like you have quotes, whether it is double quote or single quotes, that would basically be a string, right? So whatever you put inside those quotes is the value that is will be stored in the variable x. And once we store that, let's print that and check it out. And let me run this, and then you can see the hello world. Now, what what exactly do we need to learn? Whether you are trying to be a software engineer, or whether you're trying to be a data analyst, or whether you're trying to be a data scientist, no matter what you're trying to do by learning Python programming, when it comes to strings, um, at some point you would want to understand like how to access certain characters, like based on the position. So for example, let's say that you want to access the fourth character. So let me put a comment here. So the comment is written this way with the hash in front, and I'm going to say print. I want to, so our string hello world is stored in the variable x. So in that, I want to extract, or I want to look at like the fourth character. So I put 3 there, and then we'll see in just a moment why that is. And you can see that's L. It's not really clear in this particular example, right? Because L is, there's a L in the third position as well as fourth position, and then I printed X in the square brackets. I put 3 instead of 4. And now why is that? The reason is that the counting starts from 0, right? So counting starts from 0, 1, 2, 3. So the third number is the fourth character, which in this case turns out to be L. And let's see how to, one more example. Let's try and access the first character. So what do you think should be the answer here? So take a moment and think about it, and I'm going to type it here. So the first character, like I said, is going to start from 0, so that's the H. And what about trying to access the last character? Now, how will I know what is the last character, right? How how can I count? I don't know what is how many characters are stored, right? So in this particular example, you can see it, but in general, when you're dealing with large amounts of data, you may not be able to see it. So so here I'm going to show you access last character, and let's see. And then don't worry about, you know, if it's like going too fast or too slow. Everything, this particular notebook will be shared with you and on GitHub. So first thing I want to do is I want to figure out how many characters are there, right? So I want to basically count how many characters are there. So there's a function in Python. So these are all like built-in functions, right? So nothing, you don't have to import anything yet, right? So nothing's being imported. It's all like inbuilt functions in Python. And then you can see the length here is 12. So if they're 12, then that tells me that if I want to access the last character, then I can say print x11, right? And then which is the exclamation mark at the end. Okay, so let's look at next is, what about you want to not just like the first or the middle or the last, or maybe I want to have access a bunch of characters, right? So this is called slicing. So let's say I want to access the first 5 characters, then I can give, the syntax would be using the colon there. So I put the semicolon or colon. I always get confused between those two. So this symbol here, and so 0 to 4, and then that gives me HELL. So 4 characters, right? So 0, 1, 2, and 3. So the fourth one actually doesn't get counted. So it's always like -1. So what about, so like I said, so if I wanted like the 5 characters, then I would have to do 0 to 5, right? Not 0 to 4. So then I would get the first 5 characters, right? So even though the count starts from 0, and we still say 0 to 5, because it will only go at the last endpoint, it will subtract minus by 1. Okay, so that was like accessing the elements. Now what about if I ask you now, just with this information, um, I can ask you a question like, is there a way to like check if a particular string is palindrome? So check palindrome. So I give you a string, right? So so let's say that the string s equals, um, so it's kayak, right? So this is a palindrome, right? That means that whether you read it from the left or from the right, it's going to be the same word, right? So and then so I give you a string, and then you have to tell me whether it is a palindrome or not. So this is actually, believe it or not, like one of the easiest interview questions that could be asked, and there is actually a pretty easy way to do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually define a function. So if you have never seen a function being defined in Python, so this is the good place to check it out. So the way you define a function in Python is using the keyword def, and then you have space, and then you have to put in the name of your function. So here it's going to be palindrome, right? That's the name that I want to give it, and then I have one parameter here, so s, that's what I want to pass. And notice when you enter, what happens is that there's automatic indentation. That's another thing that you'll have to learn when it comes to Python programming, that you have to indent um, appropriately. And here, what do I want to return? So I want to return, so the given string, so the double equal to, um, and then the string, I'm going to put 2 colons there, and then -1. So what exactly is this going to do? So it's going to take the string, and which is s, and then on the left side you see s, and then the double equal to basically means that I'm trying to check if it is true or false, right? So if this is true or false, and then and the right side I have the two colons there, and then the negative one basically means that from the right side I want to, so the negative one basically means from the left, from the right side, sorry, from the right side, right extreme, I want to uh, count the characters, and then I want to check whether that is equal to the string from the left. And this actually, um, the two colons that you see there, it's actually called as uh, extended slice. So let me first run that. So now our function is ready, and we also defined s. Now we can go ahead and print. And so let's see, so print, so palindrome, and I can pass the string s here, and then you can see it says it's true. So it's saying that the string that we passed it is in fact a palindrome, right? Now, if you don't believe me, so I can give you another example. Maybe I will define now x to be, um, let's see, what can I name it? Maybe I will name it Facebook, right? And then in the next cell, I can again call the function, and then again pass s. So remember now s has, the previous value has been replaced with the new string that we passed it, which is Facebook. And then guess what will be the answer? So it's going to be false, right? So it's not a palindrome. So when you read this particular word from the right side, it's not the same as what you read from the left side. So it's a very, the extended slice is a pretty good neat trick that helps you in figuring this out in a very quick way. And if you're still confused about it, so let's try and understand the extended slice. So let's to take a deep dive. So let me print, and before I print, let me go back and change our s value, or I can type it here again. And so let me make it again kayak, and then let's see. So remember, I can check, so with the colon and then -1 here, I can print it out, and I see kaya, right? So what does that mean? So that basically means that I'm trying to see from the right, right? Remember, whenever you put like a -1, that means from the right. So it's showing me what will be the result. And let me also show you, if I try to print with the as with the extended slice, what happens. So with the extended slice, it basically from the right, it's reading the entire string, which is kayak, and here, since it is a palindrome, we're not actually able to see the difference, right? So in order for us to understand the difference between the top one and the below one, let me uh, change the string. Maybe I'll put my name there, Srikant, and then I'll try to print again, right? So the with the normal slice, right? The normal slice with single slice, and then -1, and then this is then going to be just Srikant, right? This is just like subtracting the last character. Whereas if I try and doing the extended slice, and then you can see it's actually reading from the right side. So HTNAKIRS, right? So from the right side. So that's basically the extended slice, and just a simple function where you define the function and then just check whether the string equals the extended slice from the right side is as simple as that, to check whether a string is a palindrome or not. And this is actually a good interview question that someone can ask you. So next is whenever you have string defined, there are some kind of manipulation that you can do with the string. So just like how accessing elements, we saw the slice and extended slice. Similarly, there are few methods. These are called string methods that you can use to um, make changes to the string. So for example, I define A as learn Python fast. Okay, and run it. So now A will have that particular string is stored. Now, what if I want to make everything lowercase, right? So if I want to make everything lowercase, as simple as A dot lower. So with the empty function, so you're basically saying I want to apply the method lower on the string A, and so everything turns into lowercase. Similarly, you can probably guess if I have to make everything uppercase, what will be the function? So you guessed it right, it's going to be upper, right? And now I have everything in uppercase. Now what about there might be sometimes in a string you might have some leading or trailing uh, white spaces, right, which we call as like blanks, or um, some white spaces embedded in front or in the back of the string, and you want to get rid of them. So how can we do that? So this is called stripping leading or trailing white spaces. So how can we do that? So for this particular example, I'm going to redefine our string A. Since our previous string actually didn't have any leading or trailing spaces, so I'm going to create an example where we do have that. So I have the space in front, you can see, before learn, and I'm going to type learn Python fast and practice. All right, so that's going to be our new string, and let's print now. So a dot so make a guess, while guess, to see like what will be the function to strip any leading or trailing white spaces, and it's strip, right? It's pretty clear, right? It's not nothing. It's the naming of the functions is pretty standard. It's the job that it is supposed to do, and the naming is done appropriately for that. And so I print that, and then now I have stripped the leading space. So if I print A, and so you can see actually slightly, you can see like this space here. Maybe I can give much bigger space here and rerun this particular cell, and then now A will again get updated, and then strip, and you can see, and then so now you can actually see the bigger difference here, right? So the A, when I print A, you can see the space in here, and then when I strip it, so that's gone now. Okay, so what about if you want to like split the string based on a particular delimiter or a separator, right? So let me write a comment here. So split the strings based on a separator. Okay, so again, it's going to be a really natural way of doing things here. So print a dot, and some of you probably guessed it by now, it's going to be split, right? So it's like default way of splitting the string. And so basically the default string is just like based on space, right? So any kind of empty spaces. So that's why you see here practice comma practice is combined into one particular element after the split is done. And let's also look at another example where I split, um, but I also provide a separator here. So now I'm saying based on comma. And then you can see all the space that we have in the string up until the comma, that you can see the quotes here. So that becomes one split, and then the rest becomes the practice and exclamation mark and becomes the second element when you split based on this delimiter, right? So you might encounter situations where you want to split and then based on a particular delimiter, and so that functionality is also provided, right? So it all depends on situation, right? There's no right or wrong answer. And the other thing that I wanted to show you was when we do the split, right? You can actually like store this in another element, right? So a dot split, I can also store it, and after I store it, I actually want to look at what is the data type. So that there's a function called type. So what is the type of this new variable b? And you can see, so class and list, so this is the name of the data type, right? It's a list. So we haven't like, we're not going to go in depth into what is a list in this particular video, because we're focusing on strings, but list is basically another, it's like a data structure, specific data structure in Python, um, where you basically store the elements, and the structure basically is like wherever you see these square brackets, that's basically a list, and then the elements are separated by comma. And so just for your information, so when you do the split, it returns a list, and we'll have like we'll cover list separately in another video. And so let's move ahead now to the next um, function here. Maybe what if like you wanted to combine strings and numbers? So combine strings and numbers. So there might be few situations where you want to do that, and let's say age is 100. Creating like some numeric and string variables to show you how you can combine them, and and then maybe I can have like a text, right? And here I can say my name is, and then my name, which is Srikanth, and I can have I am, and I have like the curly braces here. So essentially the goal is that I'm trying to use the numeric variable together with the string variable, and let me first run that. So I have like the age and text variables, right? So both are saved. Now I want to print, so the text, so dot, so there's like a method that I can apply. This is another method, string method, which is called format, and then I'm saying format it based on the age value. So you can see then it returns my name is Srikanth, then I'm 100, right? 100 years old, right? Because I didn't want to tell you my actual age. So yeah, so when you have these curly braces and then you use the method format, and then you can pass like what variable, and then that will show up here. So this is a very useful thing when to like combine strings and numbers. Um, let's also look at another feature which is called like escape character. So let me type that here, escape character, and let's see. Let me actually like create another string to showcase the escape character. So learn, and then maybe I put a backslash here, and then I put Python, and I put another backslash, and then fast. And let's try and print this now. Okay, so what do you see here? What's the difference that you see here? You actually see the string is actually says learn and then Python in quotes and then fast exclamation mark, right? What if I, so what exactly happened here? So I was able to store within the string, I was able to store quotes, right? So which is not actually possible without some kind of functionality that you inform the compiler. So what happens when you pass the code to the compiler, right? So Python is a compiler based programming language. So if you don't put the quotes, the way this understands is that you can see immediately the color has changed, is that the way it reads is the starting code and the end code, end quote, and then the rest it will give us an error, right? So it will say it's a invalid syntax error because it doesn't understand the interpreter, it doesn't understand like what exactly is happening, because once you start a quote and you end a quote, that's like the string, and then the rest it doesn't understand what's happening. So in order for us to inform the computer, right? So hey, I want you to not treat this particular quote as the end of this particular code that you have, and then you have to somehow inform the computer, right? So that's basically the escape character, which is the backslash. So backslash followed by quote basically informs the interpreter that hey, I don't have to treat this as the end quote for this first quote, and I'm just going to treat it as a separate quote. And then once I put this quote here, then it knows, okay, so this is the end for this particular quote, and then this quote will again be associated with the first quote. So these two quotes will be associated together based on the help that it gets from the escape character. So hope that's clear, like the using the escape character. So again, like you might have like some situations where you want to have some quotes in the text. So in those situations, that will be helpful. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing is like what if like you have a situation where you want to find a substring, right? So that's a very common uh, question that you want to do. So find a substring. So let's create another variable and then have some text in here. So I'm gonna say watching the 100 on Netflix. So it's a show on Netflix. So that's just like creating a string here to show you. And I'm also going to print a dot. So the next string method for substring, finding a substring, is like find. So I want to find, and so I have to inform like what exactly do I want to find. Right, so I want to find the string Netflix from A, right? And so it returns me a number, right? So it's returning me a number. Is that what we wanted? Exactly, right? We wanted the position of where this particular substring exists within this bigger string. So if you count the characters starting from W, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right, including the space, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, right? So, and then we have Netflix. So it's giving me the position where after which you can find the substring Netflix. Okay, so let's look at the, so far we have looked at some of the string methods like lower, upper, and we also looked at the strip and split and format, and we also looked at the escape character and finding a substring. Now let's try and instead of finding, what if I want to replace a particular substring, right? Maybe I want to replace a substring, and so let's like use the same string that we have, and so a dot, and you guessed it right, it's going to be the method name is going to be replace, and I have to provide what exactly do I want to replace here, right? So I want to provide what I want to replace. So maybe let's say I want to, so watching the 100, so the 100, and then maybe I want to change it to friends, right? So that's more popular. So now it's our string shows watching friends on Netflix, right? We replaced the substring, the 100, with another substring called friends, right? So now it says watching friends on Netflix, right? So it's a pretty cool method that we can use whenever we want to manipulate strings. Okay, so next thing that we want to look at is uh, what if we wanted to repeat a string? Okay, so let's see, repeat a string. So for this, I am going to create another string. Let's say it has AA, BBB, and C. And this is our string, and I want to repeat this string. I want to write some kind of code that it will repeat it. So how about this, A into 2? So the A asterisk 2 basically means that I want to, so the A, B, 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 C, and then it is just going to start repeating it again. It's as simple as that. What if you want to check out uh, whether like a string starts or ends with a particular uh, variable? Okay, so I'm going to give here starts and ends with a string. So we'll use this like the same variable that we have, and let's see if we can print a dot. Again, you guessed it right. So starts with, that's the name of the method, right? It's nothing too complicated. And a, and it says true, right? So it's going to, basically what this method is doing is it's just going to the string that we saved here, a. It goes and checks whether the starts with is like the first character, whether it is a. If it is, then it returns true. What if I want to check if the end, right? So it's going to be ends with, and what is the character? Again, let's see a, right? Like what? Let's see what does it do, right? it says false, which is true, right? Because the last character here is C. Okay, so that's the end of the string methods and the string types that I wanted to show you. And in the next chapters, I will cover the different data structures like lists and dictionaries, which are going to be really useful for us, whether you are trying to be software engineer or the data analyst or data scientist, or anything related to data. Um, Understanding these data structures is going to be really useful, and also writing more complex functions that I will cover later on. And the other obvious obvious chapters I can think of is like the loops, whether it is like for loop or like a while loop, understanding the loops. And then once before we get to the loops, I wanted to first explain what are strings and how to use strings and what are the different methods that we have in strings, and then explain like lists and dictionaries. And then when we get to like loops, right, then we can use all of that combined together and show you how all of that comes together. All right, so make sure that you subscribe down below and like the video, and share it if you like it. And I will make sure that I will add the next videos, which will be on like lists and dictionaries and loops. And also I'll share some of the more, once we have like all this knowledge, some of the interview questions that frequently asked interview questions or common interview questions that might help you. All right, take care, bye.